Hi, everyone who's joined us so far. Thank you. Thank you. We'll get started in a little bit after noon here. So thank you for joining and hang tight. We will get started soon. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking your lunch hour to join us today to talk about I Love My Park Day. I think we're going to give folks just a couple more minutes to trickle in here. I know we're waiting on a handful more, but I know we want to not waste your valuable time either. So we will get started here in probably just about 2, 3 minutes. We'll give folks just a minute to switch over from what they were doing and hop on and join us. So thank you for being here again and hang tight. We'll get started very shortly. Rebecca, can you hear me okay? Okay, great. Just making sure. And you have two computer screens going here. It's hard to know if there's an echo or not without being on the other end. So thank you. Few more folks have hopped on. So for those who are just joining us, we're going to get started probably 12:03. We just want to give folks at least some breather to get from what they were doing to hop on with us. So 12:03, 2 more minutes, we'll get started. All righty. It's 12:03, so let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this second webinar for planning event organizers for I Love My Park Day. So thank you for being here. I know we have some new updates for you, and hopefully you'll walk away with something valuable from this workshop. So even if you've hosted this event hundreds of times now, but let's dive in. So welcome. If you don't know me, I'm Shana Hogan. I'm the Senior Manager of Programs and Grants here at Parks and Trails New York. And I am joined by my colleagues, Rebecca Murray, who's our Program Manager, and Will Cote, who is our Senior Director of Public Lands. So they are on the call here as well. Hopefully we have some DEC folks and Parks folks as well. So today's webinar, as I mentioned, is for anyone organizing an I Love My Park Day event. That includes park staff, local friends, groups, members. Hopefully you are aware, I Love My Park Day 2024 will be held on Saturday, May 4th this year. Very excited to celebrate another successful and impactful statewide event with all of you. Quick agenda for today. So today's webinar, we're going to talk about the numbers for this year, where we're at with number of sites, number of volunteers, some updates and requests that we have for hosts for 2024. So we'll go over some different ways that you can promote your event. Now is the time to start doing so. So we'll dive into some creative ways you might not have thought of to promote your event, as well as some tried and true ways. We will go over some more resources that are available to you as hosts, some event day tips, how to prepare, and then really we want to dive into how to use I Love My Park Day to advance your organization effort. So if you are a friends group, this is mostly for you. We want to help you capitalize on this event. And then what to do after the event. It's nice to just say, sayonara, that was a great event, but there's a lot of things you can do afterwards to keep the momentum going. So first, some brief housekeeping points. We ask that everyone remain on mute. I believe that that's just the natural situation for webinars in general. So you might not be able to come off mute, but even if you wanted to, but there is a Q&A feature and there's a chat feature that are available to you for any concerns, questions, issues you might have. So please use that Q&A feature as we go along. We will be stopping at different points throughout the webinar to address your questions. So no worries there. If you do experience any technical difficulties, reach out to Will. His email's on the screen now, wcote@ptny.org. Also, we will be emailing this presentation to everyone after the fact, so don't feel like you have to take frantic notes. There will be a recording and the slides available to you after this webinar. So where are we at as of this morning? I pulled these numbers about 10 minutes ago, so these are accurate and updated. We have 132 sites registered, and we have about 850 volunteers registered, which is more than we had at this point last year. So that is exciting. There is some positive momentum, but still plenty of time to get more volunteers to your sites. I have sent you a link to track volunteer registrations for your site. If you have registered an event prior to today, if you registered it today, you probably did not get this email, but if you did not receive your link to check your volunteer information, please let us know. You can email ilovemypark@ptny.org and you will have your unique link to access your volunteer info in real time. It updates every 24 hours, so you won't get folks multiple times a day, but you will get them every day. And then registration for your event is set up to automatically close once it reaches the max number that you provided during registration, plus a few additional folks. So we wanted to give some sites some buffer room. I know usually that's okay. If you have a hard cutoff at a number, please let us know and we can close your registration at any time so people don't continue to register for your event. All right, so some statewide promotion and outreach. What has already happened? So the governor's press release has already went out, which is very exciting. Governor Hochul's office issued a press release on March 29th, not promoting I Love My Park Day solely, but promoting our entire suite of Love Our New York Lands events for 2024, which includes Canal Clean Sweep coming up next weekend, I Love My Park Day, and 2 additional events that we'll be talking about later in this webinar. But this press release has given us a boost both for Canal Clean Sweep and I Love My Park Day already, so that's very exciting. In addition, PTNY, New York State Parks, and DEC will be doing some additional promotional strategies. We've already done a handful of them. You can see them on the screen. There are some social media posts, some e-blasts there. But this kind of promotion, we reach a pretty wide audience with between the 3 agencies and PTNY. We can reach a lot of people, and so these posts and this kind of promotion really does give your event a boost. But some of the ways that we do this, we do posts across Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. This includes some collaborative posts and some paid Facebook targeted ads to some regions that might not be seeing high registration numbers. We have landing pages on all of our websites that we direct folks to volunteer. We have e-blasts, e-newses that are going to feature I Love My Park Day in there, and we'll link directly to the map where people can find your site. We also do letters to the editor, and we reach out to state legislators. But if you are hosting a state official, please let us know. That helps us to maybe drive some more traffic to your event. And then we hit up all volunteers from previous I Love My Park days. So all of our emails to volunteers about registration goes out to everyone who is registered in the past 13 I Love My Park days. So that's a whole engaged group of individuals that we can connect with. In addition to that, New York State Parks will be creating a poster for hosts to display on site at your park or in your local community. We are expecting a PDF of that to be ready on our website early next week for you to be able to print and hang at your site. That's on that ptny.org/ILoveMyPark. All right. I know why you all came here, because you wanted to know the t-shirt colors and for this year, because that's what everybody always asks. So here we wanted to show you these t-shirts. So they will be this color, this Heather Royal. It's a blue color. And then you can see the gold design on the front there, as well as the back. So that is what t-shirts are going to look like this year. It will be the same t-shirt for all 4 Love Our New York Lands events. So if you, for some reason, are participating in Canal Clean Sweep next weekend, you will not be getting an I Love My Park Day shirt, because it is the same shirt. So we want to make sure we have some for everyone. So you can use that one and go to all 4 events if you'd like. Hold on to them. But a couple of updates on t-shirts. If you are eligible to receive t-shirts, not all sites are. They will be sent to your site a few days prior to the event, just as in all previous years. Just a few reminders. T-shirts were purchased in February, and so we have a limited supply. That being said, volunteers, the one thing that we changed this year is, in previous years, we've asked hosts to share the sizes of shirts that they want for their sites. This year, we are asking volunteers to provide their preferred shirt size during registration, during volunteer registration, and then we will backfill with what we have available to get you to that or close to that number that you had decided during registration. Yes. So in all previous years, remember that you will not be getting more shirts than your expected number of volunteers. If you said you're really only expecting 50 volunteers, but you can accommodate up to 100, we're not going to get more than that 50, or plus or minus a few to accommodate staff or hosts for that event. And then please note that we cannot ship to PO boxes. I know our intern Sydney has been reaching out to folks who have provided a not complete address or a PO box, and so we've had most of those updated by now. But if you know for sure you gave us an address that we cannot ship shirts to, please send us an updated address by Monday, April 15th. We have to send a final list to our vendor next week, and they'll start to ship shortly after that. So, and then please note, we will not be doing banners this year. There is a generic banner template available on our website, but I know in the past, we didn't do them last year either, but a couple years ago we did those big banners. We're not doing those this year. Okay. So before we dive into some tips and tricks for making your I Love My Park Day event a success, we have 3 requests of hosts this year. 2 of these should sound familiar. One of them we're hoping you guys can help us out with. But one, please send your favorite photos to us, to Parks, to DEC. The contact for each of those organizations, agencies is on your screen there. So Rebecca Murray will be collecting photos on behalf of PTNY, and then Kate Jenkins from New York State Parks, and Aaron Sawsville from DEC. So this really helps us to highlight your achievements, promote future I Love My Park Day events. It really helps to drive volunteers in future years. So it's great to get those photos. Candid photos, group photos, photos of all different kinds of projects and people really helps showcase the variety of projects that are available to volunteers. I think that's one of the unique things about I Love My Park Day is how many different projects folks do and take on at each individual site. So getting photos of those different projects are really helpful to showcase the breadth of activities that we do during this day. And we encourage you to share these on your social media channels too. Promote them, use them to promote your organization. Share them anywhere you can. The second request is after I Love My Park Day, PTNY sends out a post-event survey to all hosts. Unfortunately, we rarely receive enough information to really quantify all the work that you guys do across the state. So we strongly encourage hosts to fill out this survey so we have an accurate measure of your collective impact. And then the last request that we have is about those Love Our New York Lands events that I mentioned. So please let your volunteers know that I Love My Park Day is only one event out of 4 this year that presents the opportunity to give back to our public lands. So Canal Clean Sweep will be prior to I Love My Park Day, but if you're in communication with volunteers now, you can tell them that is happening next weekend. But in addition to I Love My Park Day, there will be 2 events in September. The first one is Adirondack and Catskills Park Day on September 7th. So this day really focuses on the conservation of land that makes up those 6.5 million acres within New York of the Adirondack and Catskills Park. Projects will be helping with trail maintenance in the forest preserve, participating in a campground cleanup after a busy summer season. So stewardship efforts really help protect those outdoor spaces that we haven't traditionally been able to hit during I Love My Park Day. So that's pretty exciting. And then the final one is on September 28th, which coincides with National Hunting and Fishing Day. And this is Fish and Wildlife Day, which is a great opportunity to show your appreciation for wildlife conservation. Couple interesting different project ideas for that, but planting native plant species, removing invasives, to foster really healthy wildlife habitat. So anything that you can think of to create healthy wildlife habitat. A lot of these events will take place at wildlife management areas across the state. They'll be building bird or bat houses. And then a lot of these events will be paired with like birding or nature walks. So they can be very exciting. So even if your site is not hosting one of these events, it's really important that we get volunteers to these events to keep stewardship of our public lands going all year round. So hosts can really help us out with that too. And you can direct folks to, we have a landing page for those events where we'll be hosting registration. That's the ptny.org/Love New York Lands. We'll provide all and any updates we have in those events there. Oh, and registration for these events will open in July. So if folks are asking when they can go on and register for those, that'll be July. All right, those are our requests for you guys this year. Now, do you have any requests from us? Any questions? I'll take a break here and then before I turn it over to Rebecca. I see anonymous attendee asks, how do you know if you're eligible for shirts? Great question. Please send me an email. Just email ptny.org/ILoveMyPark. I'll let you know. Mostly sites that are hosted on OPRHP or DEC lands are eligible for shirts. But also we have a limited supply. So if you register your event, after today, there's a chance you might not be eligible for shirts. We just have to see where we're at. But please send me an email and we can figure that out. Is there a template flyer that we can use? Yes, we are hoping that the flyer will be available next week. That'll be the official flyer. There's also a flyer from a different organization. I think they're Friends of Old Croton Aqueduct that I will share later in this webinar that you could use, but you can really make any flyer, but there's a handful, and I think we do have additional template ones on our website. All right, David asked, can you share the event registration link on the webinar? I was not aware that it had to be requested. Yes, we can do that. One of us on staff here can share that in the chat with folks, or maybe we should just email it to you. We'll get you that event registration link, David. All right. Diane says, good idea to send survey questions to us ahead of time so we know what stats we have to gather for you. That's a great idea, Diane. We can definitely consider that. I I know folks are usually busy just planning for their event, but if that's something that we think you guys will find useful, I'm happy to share those. We definitely have those questions ahead of time and we can definitely share them with you. All righty. Rebecca, Will, did you guys see any other questions come in? Perfect. Okay, well, with that, I will turn it over to Rebecca.
The comment about folks being busy right now, kind of planning for their event and not thinking about post-event is a perfect segue. So we're just over 3 weeks out from the event, which is really crazy. That time went that fast. I feel like we've been, we started these planning meetings back in January. So the fact that we're almost near May is wonderful. That said, we know volunteers kind of wait for a week or two out before they officially register for any site. They got their eye on the weather, and we know that when the weather's nice, where do people want to be? We want to be outside, and where's our favorite place outside? It's going to be at state parks, historic sites, and different public lands. So that said, the next 3 weeks are going to be really important in terms of promotion. So there's just a few ways that you can promote your event. You can use Facebook, which is kind of a primary traditional medium. PTNY already has an I Love My Park Day event created on Facebook, so you can use that as a template. You can share it. You can create your own. So obviously there's going to be a nice photo image. You might have photos from last year that you can use as your banner image that shows some volunteers at your site in particular. And Shane, I think, thank you, just added the link to the chat to our Facebook event. That said, there are a lot of communications out in the ether right now between Parks and Trails New York, OPRHP, DEC. We have a lot of that content. We have a lot of these wonderful photos that we received over the years. You can always share them, retweet them, obviously, on Twitter. You can add content, you can add hashtags, add handles, but use that as a basis. So that said, we have some of our traditional hashtags that we like to encourage folks to use because this is what we search for, during the event, after the event, so we can share your content. Hashtag I Love My Park Day, hashtag ILMPD, hard to say fast, PTNY, State Parks, DEC. I think you should have all of our handles by now, but we'll absolutely share them, but tag us. So finally, the last thing to consider is reaching out to maybe a local media outlet. We know right now they're eager for stories, especially stories that are about us being outside, because like I said, everyone wants to be outside right now. I know we were just that last nice day that we had, was that yesterday or the day before? But anyway, so we've been picking on the Friends of Old Croton Aqueduct recently a lot, but they created a really nice flyer, and they have every year, that has sponsors listed out. It has a QR code. There's a link directly to their registration. It's on the screen here. It's just done very well. It provides all the information that anyone could possibly need to decide whether or not they want to volunteer. So I feel like this is kind of the gold standard for a flyer you could create. That said, promotion, can go one way or the other. You could be overdoing it. Shana had mentioned that some sites have a max capacity for how many volunteers you actually can accommodate. So keep an eye on your volunteer registration numbers. Keep an eye on that running list that updates in real time to make sure you're not hitting your max. So if you continue to promote and you get more people registering, you might find yourself going over. You don't want to necessarily turn away volunteers, but that's a possibility. Let's see. Okay, so other planning tools. We've got all of our resources for our organizers on PTNY's site, and I can definitely throw this in the chat as well. ptny.org/ILoveMyPark has a great wealth of resources available. There's planning materials from the timelines and the day of checklists, as well as what we call, model language. So, with the Friends of Old Croton Aqueduct, they have all these great sponsors. Did they want to send a sponsor thank you letter? We have a template for a sponsor thank you letter. Did you invite elected officials and folks came that you want to thank? We have model language for thanking elected officials. Drag and drop, plug and play kind of templates where you can put your own site's name and different legislator names, etc. We also have a lot of promotional materials that are templates that you can use and tailor to your unique events, from press releases and media advisories to the banner that Shana had mentioned, and logos. Again, that poster that's forthcoming is going to be a great tool for you. And then hopefully we'll have that by next week and then available in both English and Spanish. On that resource page, you're also going to find a copy of the volunteer service agreement as well as the photo release forms. You should, and we recommend that you print copies and so that you have them available for anyone that will call a walk-in or somebody that registers that day. And then the kind of like last, and it's been our request always, is if you have a resource that you've been using for I Love My Park Day that you find especially useful, I hope you could share it with us. Send it over in a quick email. We'd love to add it to the Gateway. We could share it around. Some of you are seasoned I Love My Park Day hosts, and so if you found something that works, share it, and we'd love to share it out too. More pre-event planning, because you all don't have enough to do. So we're here to say effective communication and being organized well in advance is going to make for a successful event. That's where we are at PTNY when we're kind of starting these events. Again, we start talking about them in January. Your communication with your volunteers is going to be critical. Everyone wants more details. People have sometimes registered since the day that volunteer registration opened. So, as we get closer to the event, they're now having registered several weeks ago. You have access to their emails. You can send them an email as soon as you want to, just to say hi and welcome them. But we do recommend that everyone sends an email to those that are registered at least a few days in advance. This is definitely a reminder for some people who, again, registered a few weeks ago and it's maybe not fresh in their mind. It's also a way that you can provide any details about the event that are obviously included in the registration form, but that are definitely good to reaffirm. A meeting time, the location, do they need to bring anything? Or is there any special instructions, etc. And again, a lot of this information is in the volunteer registration form, but it's definitely helpful to remind folks. That said, the volunteer check-in process on the day of, think about how you want to do it now. What will that check-in look like? Where are you going to, actually physically host the check-in process? Who on your staff or, which volunteer is going to help manage it? Obviously, it's great to think of a space where maybe people aren't on top of each other. I think social distancing is still a very respected procedure. So delegating out this responsibility ahead of time so we know somebody's there to greet and direct volunteers to where they need to go is definitely key. So, for check-in, obviously we have a nice check-in area, but you might need signs. You might need, some of your sites are really big. So from the parking area to your check-in location, you might want directional signage. We have in the past received feedback from participants that they have trouble finding the check-in site in some bigger parks. They might not have ever been to your site before. Some of you know your site like the back of your hand, but for others, they're there for their first time. So think about signage. We have the directional signage template available that you can print and post up. And we always say you can never have too many signs. That said, kind of in that same vein, you're going to have people that will likely show up on the day of that want to participate that haven't registered online. And then to kind of think about and have in your head what your max number is, where you're at, who's checked in already. Can you accommodate those walk-ins? Do you have to turn them away? But these are definitely good questions to contemplate early on, just so you don't have to get all fumbled in the moment. You'll have copies of the photo release agreement, the volunteer service agreement, in case you are able to accept volunteers or walk-ins. And then a traditional sign-in sheet is always effective. And then just two more things to consider. I know I've gone to People's Island State Park in the past, and I know that Dave and crew do walking tour. They do the actual cleanup. They have a lot going on at their site. And so what if somebody shows up late? What if somebody doesn't show up at check-in on time, doesn't get their t-shirt? You've already gone off to go do, an activity, or there's a walking tour. Think about who's going to be manning that sign-in table. We do have anybody that can kind of stick behind and show people how to grab a t-shirt, how to sign in. And again, who will be handling the distribution of t-shirts? Do you want to organize them by size and have them laid out? I know that's what they did at Peebles, and I thought it was a pretty good system. So Again, similar to the people's example, you might have multiple projects kind of going on. So is it helpful to have a project sign up sheet so you know exactly how many people are on any given project? Then you don't, you know you have enough people to complete the task. Another option is to ask volunteers ahead of time. If you already know what your events are, I know the Friends of the Genesee Valley Greenway State Park do gate paintings. You already know that's going to be an option. You could, I think SurveyMonkey does have like a free option. Create a SurveyMonkey, survey your volunteers, and maybe start figuring out where you're going to put your volunteers ahead of time. Assigning experienced team leaders as kind of guides for these is really advisable. These are people who have done this event many times. They know where to go. They can answer questions. So having some leads is definitely a recommendation. Last, certainly not least, we are hoping and manifesting a wonderful, beautiful day on May 4th. But 1 year we were in snowsuits and gloves and hats, so that could happen. So definitely have an inclement weather plan. Are you going to be the rain or shine, crew that's out there, or are you going to have a rain date? These are details that you'd want to let your volunteers know ahead of time, just so people are prepared. They don't show up on the day of, if there's a rain date to be scheduled. All right, some more pre-planning. So the tools and project supplies. This is important because some sites are going to have tools and materials available, and others are going to maybe hope that volunteers come with their own tools. There's no harm in asking, but if you want people to show up with their own tools, you might want to make the request of that ahead of time. Parking and restrooms. Parking and restrooms end up being a huge conversation piece. So we definitely recommend that you waive the entrance fee for anyone volunteering to participate in I Love My Park Day. So if your park or historic site does charge the vehicle entrance fees, make sure there's some sort of system for volunteers, the toll operator, or the main entrance to your park, that it's understood that if either they make it themselves known as a volunteer, that the fee would be waived. Same with restrooms and signage, make it clear where they can go to get to those important facilities. That's going to be important on the day of. And then for parking needs, or site needs, I should say, at a bigger site, how are you going to get people to and from different sites? If you have a big site, are there transport options? Is it only going to be walking? All things that you can kind of put forward. And emergency backup plans. That'll be one of my last points. It's so important to have emergency contact information. Being able to contact a family member in case of an emergency is key. And then also kind of being coordinated with the staff on the ground, that everyone knows who's doing what in the event of an emergency. We always say we need a plan. We have a family plan in my house, actually, that we created not that long ago. So I think I have one more section, and then I can pause. I see there's a few questions that I can address, but this is for the day of. So in just over 3 weeks, on the day of, we highly encourage everybody to get there early. Some of your events already start early, but if you can get there even earlier, it's going to be helpful. As always, being organized and making sure all your materials are kind of prepackaged. If you have anything that needs to be stapled, could be really windy, you're not going to want to be doing that outside. Roles and responsibilities, everybody kind of knows what they should be doing, and then any backup plans that you'll need in case, God forbid, somebody falls ill and they can't make it, know who's going to take their place. Taking photos is, Shayna had touched on this briefly, but these photos, you'll see them in all of our promotions. This beautiful shot on the screen right now is so lovely, but this is great for us as we start preparing to promote the events, but we also encourage you to have your own photos to show the general public. You have potential members, donors, future volunteers at these events. This is what you do. This is just one aspect of what you do. So having those action shots, having photos of what people are doing when they're participating in an I Love My Park Day is a wonderful promotional tool. And we find them incredibly useful and helpful. So the sharing of photos, I think Shayna had indicated between Kate and Aaron and myself, between the 3 state agencies, to share those photos with us. We will continue to share those photos even after the event, and we encourage you to share photos after the event. Volunteers tend to share their own photos while they're participating. So maybe during check-in, maybe if there's, you know, a half a second to breathe, you might mention if you take some photos, be sure to tag our site. Your handle can be provided in one of those kind of welcome emails, just so they have it ready to go. And then all the hashtags and things that we've shared, same thing. I know I have never used it, but I know Facebook Live and the live stream option ends up being kind of fun. So if you have somebody that's a little tech savvy that could do a video, it's a little unique way to kind of showcase what you're doing for the day. And then I kind of already wrapped that up, but photos, photos, photos. Please share what you got. We are so excited to see what y'all are doing and kind of capitalize on the impact. So I am going to pause. Let me see. Okay, I'm gonna check my Q&A first. So is there anything hosts need to do regarding the photo release or volunteer release forms? The answer prior to the event is no. The volunteer service agreement, the photo release are both questions in the volunteer registration form. So anybody who registers online has already waived the, you know, signed those agreements. Day of, again, you should have copies just in case somebody's volunteering or signing up on the day of, then they can at least read through and consent. Teresa Wayland said she sent out a press release to several. It's a garden club, youth groups, master gardeners. That's awesome, Teresa. So that's a great example that a press release has already gone out to several different key stakeholders. Highly encourage. We have a template on the resources section, so anyone that can button that up and get it out. We love looking. We always are looking for the press clips after the event. So Teresa, be sure to share that with us if we haven't already seen it. And that Teresa's also using photos from previous years. So these are some great best practices. And then Tamara asked if we get copies of all the forms that are filled out. We do not send copies. I don't, Shayna can confirm, she'll take over after this.
Yes.
I don't know that we do.
Yeah, so we don't send copies tomorrow, but all the questions that are included on the actual forms are required during registration. And you will get that information. So you have that accurate, up-to-date, like emergency contact information. Anyone who actually filled out registration will have signed those two things, and they would have answered all of those fields that you will then have when you click that link to access register. So you don't actually need the forms because you still have all the information you need, but we do note that those forms are on file. I hope that helps. All righty. I see. Are there any? Okay, perfect. Just a thing. So now I wanted to thank Rebecca because thank you. That's a lot of information, but very useful, very helpful. I know that was a lot. So we will, again, we'll be sharing this with you after the fact. It's all available to you, and you can ask us any specific questions that you might have after this is over, when you finally have time to process all this information we're throwing your way. But just to throw some more information your way, I want to talk a little bit about how you can use your I Love My Park Day efforts to advance your organizational efforts. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this. One, we really strongly recommend having information on your friends group available day of. So historically, about 35% of I Love My Park Day volunteers are participating for the very first time. So think about how to capture new park supporters for your future events. You might want to have an email sign-up form at registration so you can add them to your newsletter. You might want to have some information on hand about becoming a member of your organization. This includes when your upcoming meetings are taking place, what events you have on the horizon. Perhaps even if you have an event coming up in the next month, bring a sign-up sheet or a flyer for that event. So while folks are there, they're engaged, they're interested, they're ready to work. And that is a great time to connect with folks on that level and get them involved in the next step. So if you have something on the horizon, highly recommend promoting it during day of. And don't miss out on the opportunity to capture people while they are excited. They're there, they're ready to work, they want to be engaged. And so you need to jump on that. If you don't have an event coming up right now, if you don't have anything planned, you might want to consider hosting one. Put something on the horizon that you can promote. Even if you just say, we will have some event coming up, sign up as like an interest form, put that out, that's great. At the very least, have an email sign-up sheet or flyer about who your group is, what you do, and other ways for sharing opportunities with volunteers. So if anything, if you don't have anything coming up, you just can't think about that right now, you just want to get through Isle of My Park Day, have a sign up sheet for folks to learn more about what it is that you do. Another thing you can do at Isle of My Park Day to advance your organizational goals is to really use this opportunity to strengthen relationships with your current members and volunteers. It doesn't always have to be a focus on new folks. You want to think about how you can engage the folks that you already have on board that are already invested in your organization. So how do you involve your members and volunteers in the planning process for this event? What ideas do your board members have about how to make this event a success? And how can you leverage their ideas and strengths to make that happen? You really want them to feel ownership in this. Bring them into the fold for this very important event where they get to meet new people, help the park. Delegate roles based on interests and strengths. If members are interested in being involved, engage them in ways that interest them. The more folks feel like their contributions matter, the more likely they are to continue to be involved in the future. Can you designate long-term volunteers to lead group projects during the day? Rebecca touched on this earlier. If you know folks are, you know Joe is really good at gardening, he's been working in the garden for 10 years, create a garden project and have him lead it and take a group of volunteers himself. You can invite your volunteers or members to do a post-event debrief, capture their new ideas. Maybe going through this experience the first time really jogs something in their head for what they can do, what you guys can do next year to make this an even better event. So make sure to do that debrief with your volunteers and your members. Set some intentions for 2025. Talk about ways to leverage or activate those folks that attended. Really get everyone on board. Another thing you can do that I believe we touched on a little bit earlier is just if you have a bunch of people from your organization, or even just 3 that are planning on participating the day of, designate one person to just focus on engaging volunteers during the day. So that person can be connecting with volunteers throughout the day, engaging them in conversation, have them find out what additional opportunities volunteers are interested in, what programs excite them. How can you better connect with your community or alter your programming or offerings to better suit your audience? So the people who are there day of might be people who are interested. Maybe they're not interested in what you have necessarily going on right now, but maybe you can alter your programming, tailor it in a way that you can bring new folks in. Are there folks from other nonprofits in your community that you want to follow up with? Do you want to invite them to your meeting or to your site in general to learn more about it? If so, consider what your objectives are there. Additionally, is there any opportunity to welcome more folks into your organization that can help represent your local community more completely? So be open to new opportunities, new ideas. This is a great time to connect with people you might not naturally connect with. So those are some ways to get involved. Now I just want to spend a minute or so talking about what to do after the event. We mentioned, it is tempting to just be like, we're done, and then move on from Isle of My Park 2. We'll think about it next January, but there's a lot of ways to continue capitalizing on this momentum. So first, after the event's over, make sure you celebrate all your hard work. There is a lot that goes into planning this event, especially if you're also trying to advance some organizational goals at the same time. So here's just a few things you can do to keep that momentum going. You can publicize your success, newsletters, social medias, website updates, letter to the editor, sharing all the hard work that you did during the day of and the impact that you made in your community and at your site is going to gain some traction. And maybe, reach folks that weren't able to come out during the day of. That might be like, wow, that seems really great that they were able to do X, Y, and Z. I'm going to go see what this organization is about. Make sure to share your photos on Facebook, social media, Instagram. We talked about sharing them with us, but make sure you're promoting them on your own channels if you have them. Follow up with new volunteers. This is probably the most important tip. You've reached all these people, make sure you're keeping them engaged. We mentioned ways of how to promote your organization during the day of, but how are you going to follow up with these folks in meaningful ways in the upcoming weeks, upcoming months? Send them a thank you. Simple thank you for participating. That does go a long way. People love to hear that. Find out what they're interested in, invite them to your next meeting. Remember, you will have access to their email address that is on that link that I shared with you. So you should have that moving forward. But if they sign up for something specific that you're putting forth during registration or during the event, make sure you're tailoring it to that interest. And then evaluation. We mentioned this earlier, but PTNY will be emailing an evaluation to organizers after the event to get your feedback so we can make next year's event even better and the 2 events that are coming this fall. So if you have any feedback, we'd love to hear it. We love to share your collective impact. It really, truly, this day makes a huge difference across the state. And so getting to quantify that means a lot. And then, of course, have a debrief, not just with your members, but with your park staff, with your site. It's always a good idea to debrief when the event is still fresh in everyone's mind. Make a rough plan, some notes for next year, file them away until you're ready to process it. And then, yeah, that is what we have for after the event. Last chance for questions here. I know we're ending a little bit early. Maybe I can give you some of your lunch hour back here, but if anyone has any questions we can dive into, or if you think there's anything we didn't cover or that we missed, we can dive into that now too, because we do have a little bit of time. Will, you're seasoned at this. Is there anything we missed that you want to share? No pressure.
No, I don't think so. I appreciate you, Shane and Rebecca, for both leading everybody through this. I just really encourage everybody to obviously have fun and really embrace the day and the opportunities that it provides to engage new folks and volunteers, maybe first-time users to your park or site. This goes a long way, I think, particularly in the centennial year, to really make people feel like they have a place with us, and hopefully, as Shane and Rebecca really mentioned, to leverage that into your own purposes, grow your membership, grow your own volunteer base. So use us and this event for those purposes. Don't worry, we won't feel a certain way. That's part of the idea. Fingers crossed for great weather.
Yes. Truthfully. And we'll make sure to send you an e-blast with that 10-day weather forecast ahead of time, so you can, I know you'll all be watching it because you're hosting events, but we'll make sure to share that with you just in case, and with volunteers, because sometimes that'll drive some folks out. So Kathleen says, great info. That's a great way to end this, I think. Any last minute questions? If not, I can give you guys some time back, and feel free to email us anytime at that oh my gosh, what's the email? I love my park at ptny.org. Brain fog at that moment. All right. Thank you all so much. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you soon.